Welcome to a brand new episode of Virtua Fighter Talk, the show where we talk about Virtua Fighter and other SEGA AM2 fighting games. In this episode, this is actually one of my favorite fighting games. It was very underrated, and I wish people would play this more often. I wish it got more exposure back in the day, but this game was actually one of the best fighters I've seen on the Saturn, right next to Virtua Fighter 2. So enjoy the video.
After the success of Virtua Fighter 2 in the arcades in 1994, SEGA AM2 decided to make another fighting game that will be a great alternative to the Virtua Fighter series. That game was
Fighting Vipers.
That's right. Fighting Vipers was released for the Sega Model 2 system in 1995 and was ported to the Sega Saturn in 1996. As a kid, I remember owning a Sega Saturn demo from the mail, and I remember watching that video for the game. I was amazed that the game was fast-paced compared to Virtua Fighter, and I wanted it, but unfortunately I didn't get it until like a few years later. Armstone City, year unknown. The mayor decided to hold a fighting tournament, with the grand finale being held on top of the city tower. The Vipers, young urban warriors, decided to compete, each with their own goal in mind. Grace, a fashion model that once had aspirations of becoming a professional figure skater. Vaughn, a high school student on a mission to find and fight his father. Raxel, the lead singer and guitarist for the hair metal band Death Crunch. Tokyo, a 16-year-old former gang leader and pretty boy. Sandman, a mysterious fat man with an unknown background, though he loves motorcycles. Jane, a butch and muscled part-time construction worker. Honey, a 16-year-old fashion student known as Candy in the US version. Picky, a 14-year-old skateboarder. Mahler, a mysterious man that holds a grudge against the mayor. And last but not least, BM, a powered-up version of Mahler and the game's final boss. Developed by SEGA AM2, Fighting Vipers uses the same layout as Virtua Fighter, meaning that it has a punch button, a kick button, and a guard button. In terms of gameplay, however, it is completely different compared to Virtua Fighter. For starters, the fight takes place in walls or cages. If a character gets knocked out by a knockback move, they will be either knocked over, on top, or straight through the walls. Each character sports a certain type of armor that they wear during combat. The armor meter determines the status of the character's armor, meaning that it's green when it's normal, flashing green when it's beginning to break, and red when it's broken. Once the armor is broken off, the character will take even more damage than before. You can break armor by knockback attacks, down attacks, or hyper mode. In hyper mode, you sacrifice all of your armor and the speed and power of your attacks increases. Keep in mind, however, that you can only use it for one round, so use it wisely. All characters can recover from the air by pressing punch, kick, and guard simultaneously. This is useful for recovering from hard hits. Characters can also use walls for attacks, recoveries, and throws. There are 4 bonus characters that are found in Fighting Vipers. These characters are Kuma-chan, a 10-year-old smiling bear mascot that cannot move his arms or legs at all. Counterpart is Pena-chan. Pepsi Man, the Japanese mascot of Pepsi, who only appeared in the Japanese Sega Saturn version. And Sonic and Tails, who are available by hacking. In the Japanese version, the game was heavily advertised by Pepsi, meaning that there are Pepsi products advertised in the UFO diner stage, as well as Picky Skateboard. There were also some pictures of the characters holding Pepsi cans. This was cut in the European and North American versions due to licensing issues. As I previously mentioned, Honey is known as Candy in the North American and PAL versions of the game. However, when Honey's armor breaks, She is stripped down to her sexy lingerie. All the Fighting Viper characters appeared in the crossover fighting game Fighters Mega Mix for the Sega Saturn in 1997, competing against the Virtua Fighter characters. SEGA AM2 released a sequel, Fighting Vipers 2, for the Sega Model 3 system in 1998 and for the Sega Dreamcast in 2001 for Japan and Europe only. A North American version was planned, but was cancelled. The first game was re-released for the PlayStation 2 as part of the Sega Ages line. A PAL version was planned, but was never released. It was re-released again for the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade in late 2012 as part of the Model 2 collection, and included Mauler, a Sega Saturn exclusive, as a playable character in the arcade version. Finally, Bond appears in Project Cross Zone, a crossover tactical RPG between Capcom, Bandai Namco, and Sega.
Fighting Vipers is a very underrated fighter. It was very great first time, and the concept of it was great, fresh, original. It took the elements from Virtua Fighter and made it to a more extreme alternative. So, you know, if you guys are from like the new generation, I urge you guys to go on the 360 and the PS3 to download it and play it, or get an emulator if you don't feel like buying. I mean, those games are like what, $5? Yeah, I think they're $5, and that's about it. All I can say is that Fighting Vipers is underrated. It's underrated. I wish it got more exposure, and you know, I wish people would play it more. Now, I will do a video on the sequel, but there's one fighter I like to tackle. It's a fighting game that involves Sega's very own mascot. Stay tuned.